We're just going to go through a few bits before the weekend game against Brentford. Got a few things to cover, as I said first. Why not start with Thomas Tuchel moving to England as the new manager, which I think caught everybody by surprise. I know when the news came out in the morning, I think it come out. There'd been a few rumours the day before, I think, and then things really seemed to gather speed in the morning, and by the evening, it seemed to have been agreed. You've got to think that England have been working on this for a while. These things don't come that out of nowhere, and maybe I know Lee Carsley was criticised for some of his comments around whether he wanted the job or not. Well, maybe he knew, and he couldn't say anything. He was put in a very difficult position. I think it's a great move for England, but more so, what does it mean for Manchester United? So I think my concern with Thomas Tuchel was I would have been interested to see him come to us if Erik Ten Hag had been to leave over the last couple of weeks, maybe even in the summer, and I think he'd do well, but I just couldn't see it being anything more than what we've seen with the other managers, and one of those 2 or 3 year things where he burns brightly at first. The team look really positive under him. Everyone gets carried away. We know he's a confrontational character. The fallout's kick in, and then all of a sudden it's like we're back to where we started. So maybe in the long run, it's worked out for the best for us. And that's not to say things won't turn around under the current manager, but I think a lot of us are just surprised that he's still there at the moment. And onto that, with Ten Hag still being here at the moment, this weekend feels a little bit like a lost weekend to me. Because, look, if we win the game, yeah, okay, we got 3 points, boom, great. That's perfect. We need that for the rest of the season. We do. But it doesn't take anything away from the fact we've got games against Fenerbahce away, coming up, West Ham away, Chelsea home. There's tougher fixtures to come. So beating Brentford at home will be seen as the bare minimum. And he won't be expected to do that. There'll be a lot of fans going there not expecting that. But it won't be a massive positive if he does pull off the unexpected and, we do come away with what needs to be a comfortable win. So you scrap a 1-0, you could argue that he needs a win any which way at the moment. Only if it's backed up by more wins. A win in isolation doesn't do anything for him right now. It really does not. And if we lose the game, to Brentford, then again, after he's been kept on after the last couple of weeks, there'll be people going, "Oh, if we lose, he'll go." I don't think so. I don't think Ineos don't make the decision over the international break just to then keep him there afterwards. Now, we'll have to see how this all transpires, but I think he could be there for a little while longer, at least until the next international break, regardless of what happens. Because unless maybe Thomas Tuchel was someone that they thought of bringing in over that window, and then found out that maybe he's, England had become his preference and he was not, available anymore. Maybe it was a case of back to the drawing board. That's another possibility. So, I mean, again, trying to think ahead to the game at the weekend, because of everything that's going on with the manager at the moment, it's so hard to focus just on the football, which I think is what we all want to do ultimately. Just because when you look at the game, it all circles back around to the manager and how it impacts his position. I think if this is a decision Ineos have made, they need to come out and say something. People will go, why would they? Well, I think that if you look back over the past few managers and the time that they've gone, we've almost got it down in our heads to a T, that moment at which the Glazers would have pulled the plug. We got used to a very familiar pattern, a very familiar feeling, the build up to that sacking. And I think it's been easy for us to forget that Ineos are running the show now. And that point at which it's game over has changed. It has shifted a little bit. I think under the Glazers, I think that international break he would have gone. Perhaps even after, regardless of the cup final, as we saw with Van Gaal. But I think definitely, maybe even straight after the Spurs game, he would have been gone. This is a new ownership now, and we're going to have to readjust our expectations and readjust that, that sort of model of, hopefully we don't have to go through this again, but inevitably we probably will be here again. And I think things have changed now, and this is now setting the precedent for how things will look in the future for us. It's a difficult task for everyone around the club to really pick themselves up and be super motivated for the next game. moving on from there, a thing that also damages that motivation are the injuries that we have at the moment. Just having a look here, I think Mazraoui is out at the moment. We sort of got he's picked up an injury in the international break. Harry Maguire, I think, was out beforehand. I don't know if he'll be back. Too soon for Shaw, Malacia, and Yoro, I think. Ahmad, I believe, is touch and go as well. I'll probably miss someone. A lot of that leads to the big question, though. We might have cover in some areas. Left back, again, as we had too many times last season, left back's an issue. You could look at it a few ways. I've seen stuff about Johnny Evans. He's going to come in at left back. Victor Lindelof might move over to the right, or he could come in at left back. We're Collier filling at fullback for us this season. The sensible thing to do, and because it's a sensible thing to do, it probably will not be the thing that happens. But you've got to either play Martinez over at left back, where we know he's played before, or you've got to bring in Harry Amass. And I've covered this in previous videos. We know, I mean, look, I think I'm not on my own to say Harry Amass should come in, even if you believe he's ready or not. He had some good experience in pre-season. This is how you get chances. I saw someone make a very good point that Luke Shaw had made X amount of appearances at 17 in the Premier League. You know, and no one would have known how good Luke Shaw could become if he hadn't have had that experience early on. And it's the same for Harry Amass. You know, unless you're given that chance, you don't know. Like Willie Kambala had a few games last season, and it gave us a bit of a chance to see. Yes, because of the injuries, but at least he was used, and it gave us a chance to see if he might be ready or not. So instead of you having that potential on the bench, you get a bit of gauge of where someone's at just because the manager's given them a chance. And this probably would be a really good opportunity just before Shaw and Malacia come in, just to see maybe can he make that step up. I think if he goes with Evans at left back, it worries me because I think the balance of the team worries me. You know, there I think obviously he's had Dalot playing there and shifted into midfield, so that'll probably happen again. But with Dalot doing that, it's not comfortable, and that's someone who's used to playing at fullback regularly. And then if you ask somebody not to do that, I'm not sure how you cover that part of the pitch. And after he was unhappy with Rashford, going off on a bit of a tangent here, but after Eric Ten Hag was unhappy with how Rashford played in Europe against 20, against Porto, sorry. After how Rashford played against Porto, and he took him off after playing so well in the first half because of you know, this said rotation, but I think there were some question marks over his defensive output too. Like Rashford will start in the next game if he's looking for more security there. But if Ahmad is picking a knock, he has to, and then you kind of think, okay, so if that's Rashford left wing not tracking back apparently, and Johnny Evans sort of inverted into midfield, they're all Victor Lindelof even. Whoever plays there, is our sort of left flank, the opposition's right flank, going to be completely open? We'll have to see how it transpires, but unless he's got a different tactic up his sleeve, it does concern me. And it might be the perfect place for Brentford to expose us in the first minute again. Because Brentford are off the back of 4 consecutive games now where they've scored inside the first 2 minutes. They're 3 in a row in the first minute. The last one, I think it took them another I think it's a minute 16 seconds. So we look like the perfect patsies for them to go and make that 5 games in a row where they're scoring incredibly early goal, and it just has that feeling about it. You can just completely see it happening again, and Buemo is the perfect candidate to do that too. An absolutely fantastic player. I think he could do a job for us to an extent, whether you think he's United quality or not. I'm not even sure what that means anymore at this point. You know, we go and try and sign players from around Europe, and one thing that Sir Alex was really good at doing, that even though he did do that on occasion, it was looking for those players who have that Premier League experience and a Premier League proven, and they can come in and do a job for us. But that might be this. That's probably a discussion for another day. In terms of the lineup for the game, I can see, I think, an honour in goal. I think obviously Dalot will play one of the fullback positions. I am going to go and think that Eric sees reason and Martinez comes back to left back, and then in the middle I'm going to I think you're going to have De Ligt and Johnny Evans probably in the centre back positions. Then I think in midfield, if we've got is I think Casemiro will play. I think then there's obviously a chance he could go Mainu and Ericsson, but we don't know how fit. I'm not sure how fit Kobbie Mainu is at the moment either. I think he was back in the picture. It wasn't too bad, but obviously couldn't go away on the internationals. If he's not fully fit, I think we possibly will see Casemiro and Ericsson again in there, and then Obviously, Fernandes had his ban rescinded before, so yeah, there'll be no issues there. So obviously, he was playing against Villa anyway. So Fernandes will be in. On the left, I think Marcus Rashford. I want to go with Marcus still on the left, Garnacho on the right, and Højlund up front. Xerxes on the bench. I'd love to see Xerxes play behind Højlund for a game. It's not going to happen. If Fernandes is fit, he's going to play. I think Eric's made that abundantly clear this season. Fernandes did have a good international break, but I wouldn't read too much into that. I think he's mentally fatigued, and I think it's a fatigue that comes around playing for Manchester United. I think playing for Portugal is a break for him at the moment. So I don't think you can judge too much from that. I'm glad for him that he's gone away and had a positive experience, and hopefully he can bring that back to us. But I don't think that's going to translate in the same way. And then finally, score prediction. I think we might win. It feels dangerous to say this. I'm going to go. I mean, it could go horribly wrong, so I'm doubting myself even as I'm thinking about this in my head and how a win plays out. Because Brentford will score. I'm confident Brentford will score. I hope I'm wrong. I really do, but I think there's a Brentford goal in the game. So that being said, but we outscore them. We're not scoring many goals. We've got to score. We've got to score goals to win the game. It's something we don't do. I think I'm getting worried here. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 1-1. I just can't see the goals. We should on paper win this. I'm looking at it in my head and going, we've got the players there as we've had all the games, and we should win this. But we're not scoring goals at the moment. Brentford have definitely got a goal in them enough to scare us. Probably more than one. If we were a bit more efficient in front of goal, I'd tip the scales and go maybe we'll edge a 2-1, maybe a 3-1, 3-2 even. But we're not scoring a lot at the moment. It's going to be a tricky game, so hopefully they can find the shooting boots and get us 3 points. But I don't think it's a 3 points that's going to really have any massive bearing on Eric Ten Hag's future.